Hey guys, Dan Carpini, and I'm joined by Jeremy Griner. Now, Jeremy, there's a very scary future coming, and we're talking about Homefront today.
Right.
For anybody that hasn't been following this project, give us a bit of an overview of Homefront.
So basically, the story of Homefront takes place in the year 2027. The Greater Korean Republic has been formed through the acquisition of South Korea and the annexation of Japan, and it was a peaceful unification in Korea, forming a Greater Korea Republic. And under the guise of peace, they deployed satellites in the atmosphere, which deployed an EMP over continental U.S., thus knocking out the entire electronic grid. And one thing led to the next in our what-if future history, and the Greater Korean Republic ended up occupying and invading the U.S.
Now, we've seen bits and pieces. You first introduced it at E3 2008, I think it was.
2009.
Then we saw some early single player, then a little bit of multiplayer, and now you're showing single again. Tell us about the stuff you're showing today.
All right, so today we want to really introduce you to the Homefront universe. With that, there's definitely an inherent human cost of war. So you saw it, you experienced it, pulls on the emotional cores, and you really see what these freedom fighters are going through in an occupied America. And not just the freedom fighters, but also civilians. And it's this tug of war between civilian, freedom fighter, what's best for the people living in the country, and what's best for surviving this occupied America.
Now, I guess the most obvious question is, because these aren't trained soldiers, they're not guys who are battle hardened, tell us about the hierarchy that goes into a game like Homefront when it is really people pooling their resources, found weapons. Who's going to listen to orders from the person that takes the top?
Well, so, I mean, the way it is in Homefront is it's civilians have been pulled from their normal lives and forced to be freedom fighters in this resistance cell. And we sculpted this future history in this scenario with collaboration with John Milius and a CIA operative and our creative director. So they sculpted this what-if scenario to make this future history. And then in that future history, we have like these civilians fighting for freedom. And you notice Boone today, he's kind of the father figure. Connor, he's kind of like the badass, right? So you have these different roles, almost like a close-knit family, and it takes you throughout the campaign, and then you also get your cool buddy Goliath.
Now, on top of that, obviously we've seen that people are fairly nomadic, they're moving around a lot, they're growing everything they need to survive. With all that movement, how do they build the armories that they need and the food and supplies that they need to continue this fight?
So what you saw at E3 2010 was the level Oasis, which shows what what these civilians are doing to survive. They're growing their own food, they're using a Stairmaster to pump water and things like that. So, and they're also nomadic, like you saw. Everyone's trying to survive in this occupied lands, and they have to do whatever they can. And you touched on weapons and things like that, and basically what they're using to fight the occupation is what they can steal from their oppressors. So it's all about this tug of war between how do I survive, how do I enable an offensive against this opposing force and make it happen.
So tell us a little bit about the weapon. You've got some classic stuff both on both factions' side,
right.
A little bit of future tech as well.
Yeah, so it takes place in 2027, like I mentioned, and you see all the guns that you expect to see in a first-person shooter, but we wanted to hold true to our future history, and to do that we could not put in laser beams and bots and things like that. It just didn't work. But of course we did throw in a couple techie things that look really cool, like EMP grenades. You saw like the scanner bot there in the beginning segment. Things like that, which really play into our story and future history. We couldn't throw in things that wouldn't fit the mold.
How closely are you working with the military, for example? We've heard previously that they're based on future concept tech and stuff that may be coming through the ranks. Is there a direct involvement from the guys who are building these weapons to include them in the game?
Anything that's included in the game obviously has to be cleared, right? So we work with many people and making the most comprehensive story possible, and it has to tell a compelling narrative, while at the same time remaining true to real life.
Now, the familiar has become alien.
Right.
It seems to be the design mantra for Homefront. Tell us a little bit about that and how it's playing into the development of the game.
So, familiar has become alien is basically this sense of, I know where these people are right now, but oh my God, something's really messed up. And that's because of this occupation. Everything looks really run down. You see cul-de-sacs, you see big box stores, things like that. And you really get this feeling of, okay, this is different. This is something new. This isn't dropped here for some kind of placement or anything. It's because this is the environment that we're living in and playing in right now.
Does that give the most impact, having a known location instead of going off to a fictitious war in Kazakhstan, having somewhere that people can relate to? And we've seen it done a little bit in games like Call of Duty, where it was returning to America and there were issues there, obviously. Is it a bigger pull emotionally having a known location?
Well, I mean, the thing is with Homefront, nothing's dropped in for shock value. It's there because that's the Homefront universe. That's the story that we created, and that's what we're trying to show everyone that plays the game. So it's not just playing a first-person shooter run and gun. It's a lot about the narrative, getting looped into the action, and really just being like, looking around, not just running forward in like a tunnel path, but looking around at all your surroundings, noticing the teddy bear there, noticing the kid crying right there, noticing all these little things that happen, which really just make the universe more immersive and responsive.
Is there a fine line between creating authentic and gritty and almost gorno, creating content that is nasty almost for the sake of being nasty?
I think the underlying goal and philosophy that we follow is make it homefront. So if it is homefront, it'll be in there. Nothing is dropped in just for a shock value. And I don't think we carry it past where it needs to be to tell the story.
Now, tell us a little bit about the multiplayer, because you're doing some really interesting stuff on that side.
Right, we showed pre-alpha multiplayer last month, and we showed you some early alpha single player today. Multiplayer, we decided to build on proven mechanics and then introduce our new innovative features such as battle points and ground control. And everyone saw the coverage that came out last month, and it went really well, and we're really psyched to show you guys what comes next.
And obviously the biggest news on the multiplayer front is that you'll also be offering local servers in all the major regions.
So in order to support 32 players on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, we're providing fully dedicated server support. So in all the regions where people want to play games, servers will be there.
What are some of the technical challenges of getting those servers into all the major regions?
It's all about making sure you have the relationships and you have the server farms on the ground ready to rock. But it's the only way to make 32 players play fun, play smooth, play lag-free, and kick ass every time.
Now, we've seen a lot of shooters, and there is a bit of a glut of them at the moment.
Right.
What's going to set Homefront apart? What's it going to make it the AAA that people will be playing instead of one of the alternatives?
Yeah, I think we all have a little bit of combat fatigue right now in the first-person shooter genre, and in order to deliver a new experience, that's why we focus on the narrative and making the story really work. And it's a new experience. It's not playing through a single player to get done with it and get an achievement. It's playing through it because it's fun. You're not pressing A through cutscenes because you're bored, You're actually in the action all the time and just really enjoying the storytelling component, sinking your teeth into it and just peeling back the layers of the onion, so to speak.
It seems like you're drawing a lot of inspiration from titles like Half-Life, and I remember seeing in fairly early coverage that there were plans possibly to scrap cutscenes altogether. Is that still going ahead?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any cutscenes in it. Everything in Homefront is about developing the universe and the experience and making sure you're immersed, and things like cutscenes would pull you out of the action, pull you out of the moment. It'd almost be like a commercial in a movie. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't work for Homefront. That's why we decided to take you along the action every step of the way.
So tell us, when can people actually get their hands on this one and which platforms?
March 2011, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and of course PC.